in Port Huron for a landscaper. From about dark 30 in the morning until sometimes sundown, sometimes 6 days a week, I walked across green grass pushing a trusty lawn boy, all the while wondering if those people down in Roseville who would talk to me in late May, early June, would ever make up their mind. There was someone else that they had talked with, and I just assumed they were going to call him, and I would remain with my lawn boy. But anyway, well, every other week or so, my employer would drop me off at a rural cemetery, just about 2 miles northwest of Nowheresville, Michigan. Now understand, this was 1986 BCE, before cell phones. So this really was Nowheresville. He might as well drop me off on the lip of a crater on the moon. No contact with any other living being all day. Just me and grass and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tombstones back and forth and back and forth and around and around. My employer didn't believe in weed whips. And around and around and around. It was really exciting. Incredible. I remember pushing that moment thinking, all that education has truly paid off. It's fair to say that over that long and hot summer, I became very familiar with that sacred place. Read a lot of the tombstones. I had time. Some of those tombstones dated back, if I recall, to the mid-1700s. And I'm sure that I had other impressions of the place, but they have since dissolved. But one thing I can tell you, and I remember it as vividly as it were yesterday, every day, at least that I was there, and some days on a week I would spend 2 days there all by myself. But on the days that I was there, through the entirety of the summer, a man would come early in the afternoon, and he would go over to the corner of the cemetery where there was a new tombstone and fresh dirt. And he would stand there before the tombstone, and he would stare, and then eventually he would kneel, and he would place his hand on the stone, and he would stay. He would be like that for a long time, as still as the stone itself. And I always kept my distance. I always tried not to stare, recognizing even then that grief work is holy work. When we lose someone, it is not unusual that certain things, that particular artifacts and places become charged with a great significance and a new meaning, because those things and those spots speak to us of those individuals. They connect us to them, and in some imperfect way, they give us access to them. That is why in the pulpit, ever since August, my mother's funeral card and the bulletin that was in her ICU room have been here ever since. And every time I come on a Sunday, or whenever the paraments have been changed, I always make certain that it's there. I'm about as easygoing a man as you'll ever find. Don't touch the bulletin. Don't touch it. And don't touch that card. Everyone in this room, you either know what I'm saying, or someday you will know what I am saying to you. Those things give us imperfectly access to them. And that is exactly what brought Mary to the tomb in that shadowy time, just before the first rays of the sun, like this morning, for those of us, Rochelle and others, before it even makes the horizon begin to glow. She comes with tender steps. She comes not so much at this point to anoint the body or for some other ritualistic concern, but simply to get as close to Jesus as she possibly can. I imagine, just like that broken soul in the cemetery, she lays her hands flat on a round stone. She lets the warmth or the coolness of the stone seep into her fingers. Maybe she places her head against the stone. Maybe she stains them with her tears. and then the shock of discovering a desecrated grave, a degrading insult to an already horrible injury. As we read this morning, she runs and she tells the others that they confirm that the one that they had great love for and hope in has somehow, for some reason, been carted off to who knows where in the middle of the night. It's important to understand that, first, emptiness means nothing. Emptiness means nothing. Emptiness means he's not here. Emptiness is not ultimately the message of Easter. The message of Easter is a new presence. The presence of Jesus living in an incredibly new way beyond the grip of death. Mary, as well as all of the others, that this was something they had not dared to dream, anticipate. In fact, the gospel accounts show again and again and again a tremendous reluctance to believe. It seemed to them an idle tale. No one looks into the tomb and says, "Great Easter eggs! Hallelujah chorus." It means simply that the body is gone. But they are encountered by someone who shakes life right back into them. Their Lord and their Master is alive, living beyond the cold and the brutal finality of the grave. Everything is changed. Her future, the future of all their friends, the destiny of a tired world caught in the grip of entropy, winding down like an old clock, now has a new future. The one who can never die again will have the last word in all things. Now, in the light of the resurrection, even emptiness is charged with a new meaning. There was a little boy whose name was Philip. And Philip was a young man who had Down syndrome and had to grapple with all kinds of maladies that most of us have no clue about, including myself. And every week, Philip would enter the little world of the Sunday school classroom, a classroom that, in truth, wasn't all that sure what to do. The teacher was a doll, she was a sweetheart, but as she said, woefully unprepared to deal with all the complications. But she tried and she watched out for him, and she tried to smooth the way, and she encouraged and challenged, and sometimes would cajole the other kids to look out for him and to save him at the spot, and to always include him. The Sunday after Easter, as the story goes, the teacher brought in a batch of, some of you may remember, you remember Legs Pantyhose, the egg? I haven't gone shopping for them lately, but nevertheless, they used to, my understanding is they did come in like egg-shaped containers. So the teacher brought these in and she said, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. I want you to take your container, leave it on the desk, and I want you to go outside, and I want you to find something that speaks of the resurrection, and I want you to put it in the egg." And so they all went, and they got their stuff, and they put it in the egg, and then they all gathered around the table. It was the moment of truth, and one by one the eggs were opened to oohs and ahs, and inside would be a rock, or a leaf, or a dead bug. And then the last one was opened, and it was nothing. It was empty. And the kids go, well, that's dumb. And Philip said, "No, that's mine. Easter. The tomb was empty." Some weeks later, when an opportunistic infection took Philip's life, and the story goes that at his funeral, Philip's class marched in one by one by one, and they laid their eggs on the altar. All of them empty. I, for one, don't find it hard to believe that in the months and the years after those whirlwind encounters with the risen Christ, that those who had seen him and spoken with him, those who had felt his hand on their shoulder, that as they moved and traversed and moved in the vicinity of that old grave, its dark emptiness yawning open to the world, that its absolute emptiness would make them smile at the thought of all that that now meant for them and for Philip and for the world. The emptiness proclaimed him not gone, not stolen, but up and out and everywhere, and at any moment, without any warning at all, he could show up and he could call your name. I was reading the other day, reminded that while the tombs of the rabbis and the prophets and other great leaders were venerated almost from the very, very beginning, people would bring flowers and other tributes as a way of honoring a great light that had now gone out, a great voice that had now gone silent. But the interesting thing is, and we know this is a historical fact, that for the first 500 years, there was no tomb veneration for Jesus. There were no trinkets. There were no mementos. There were no personal effects left to honor the passing of such an incredible life. So I just ask you this question. Why do you think that was so? I'll give you one guess.